Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. So today I have with me a very special friend. You may remember him, James Lohmiller from the Doc and James show, which we recorded several episodes in 2022,
right?
Right? And we were just saying that we haven't recorded at all for over a year now. So 2023 was a blank slate for us. Part of that had to do with your new position, and part of that had to do with my move, the clinic move, which was all encompassing.
It's a lot. Yeah.
So we're really excited to get back at this and talk about all things health, wellness, and I'd like to add the design component to it.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds great.
Why don't you reintroduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm
tell people
James.
who you
I'm
are.
from Door County. I've been friends with Lynn now for 8 years now.
8 years, probably.
Crazy. And I am the general manager of the Door Hotel up in Sister Bay. But my background is in design and style. And we've always just gotten on and found each other interesting, I think. So when we get together and talk, it's been very free flowing and easy. And so it's great to be back with you, for sure.
Yeah, so when we talk a lot about different things, and what I've found is that sometimes when I talk on my own, I'm trying to make a video and I'm just trying to give out information, it's more canned and it's more formal, and I'm just kind of pushing it out there. When I talk with someone else, especially someone like James, it's more free flowing and he can ask the right questions and he can interject and add his side of things, which I think is just honestly more interesting for someone to listen to. So we're going to talk about all the different health topics that I usually talk about, but then I would love to also interject some different design things, because as you've seen with my clinic, if you watch what we've done with my clinic, we have people here now doing some aesthetic things and Botox and filler and things like that. Not that you have anything to do with that, but I believe that, in health and wellness, a lot of us try to go to our hairdresser, or we try to go to our, get these things to look beautiful on the outside, but it's really hard to look beautiful on the outside if you're not looking beautiful on the inside. But once you're feeling pretty good on the inside, it's kind of fun to work on the outside too. And James has a knack for style. That's understating it. So he has a lot of experience in the world of style and design. You were a stylist for years, and he has incredible experience in that realm. I use him personally a lot of times for my own wardrobe, or even like I just asked him, do I wear my scarf over my coat or under my coat? So he's just brilliant in that area. So it's kind of fun when we bring our two minds together to talk about health from the inside out, and he talks about health from the outside in, I would say.
Yeah, true. I've over the last year gone through a lot of changes.
Yes.
And finally am at a point now. I'm 13 months sober now, right?
Which is incredible.
And it's awesome. I feel great. It's amazing. But one of the things
because there are a lot of people right now in their first week of being sober.
For sure. Yeah.
In January 2024.
Yeah. And if I can do it, anybody can.
Yes.
That's what I want to get out there too. But I always used, just a quick aside, as like my style and my trying to look good on the outside, but I was not good on the inside. And so they never matched up, and it just didn't feel great. It felt very inauthentic.
Which is
such a different place now, and it's incredible.
Which is really funny, because I was always inside, working on the inside.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of a grungy hippie, so I didn't care as much about the stuff on the outside. I cared, but I really wasn't good at it. And that also felt very inauthentic, because at the end of the day, it feels good to present yourself in a nice way, and to not talking about designers and brands, but just, present yourself in an authentic way on the outside as well. So
yes,
great dynamic.
Yeah, it is.
It's great. And then I really want to talk about your sobriety, and I think that's a whole different episode, because that one is super powerful. So we will talk about that at length.
Yeah.
But I think today what I wanted to talk about, and James agreed, was a patient experience I had. And I tried to record this one probably 10 times on my own, but it just didn't feel right for me, just like sharing this patient's story. And I changed details and information. So this patient you will not be able to identify. The patient themselves might be able to identify themselves, but no one else would be able to identify this patient. So I'm very careful about that. But I really want to share the story, because it was the first patient in my integrative practice that brought me to tears during the appointment.
Wow.
So it was powerful.
Yeah.
And so I want to share it, and then James can interject when he feels he can raise your hand, because I talk a lot.
It's all good.
But basically, this was a couple months ago, and I have this patient. I started seeing her, over a year and a half ago, and she finally made the decision to come to this clinic. And I think a lot of people, think about it and they look us up on the internet and they look at my Facebook page, but they're paying cash to come see a doctor, and it's not cheap. And a lot of people don't do it, right? But she finally made the decision to do it because she was to the point in her life where she was probably 80 pounds overweight. She couldn't walk down her own stairs without gripping both handrails on the way down. And she's
how
still
old is this patient?
Probably in her 50s. Okay. I might have changed that a little bit, but not old at all. And she couldn't walk down her stairs without gripping the handrails. And even then, it was incredibly painful. Because of this, she was isolating herself. So she wasn't going out with friends and family. She wasn't having relationships with people. So she was by herself a lot, which made her depressed. Then she was, sitting by herself at home all day, depressed and probably not sleeping well. And just, it all snowballs. You can see how it snowballs. Like you have one thing that happens and then the next thing happens, and it's just this big snowball till at the end of the day.
Cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, and it takes years. So people don't always see it happening. It's like 1 year, okay, now I have maybe 10 more pounds and this much more inflammation, and it just kept snowballing. But people don't see it because it's just like that analogy of the frog jumping out of a boiling pot of water. If you slowly heat it up, they don't feel the temperature getting hotter and hotter, and they end up just not jumping out of the water, and then they die, which is what happens to a lot of human beings. They don't know any better. So I think what I want to share in the point of this whole story is helping people know that they have a choice and they have to be empowered and self-empowered, because the healthcare system is not going to do it for you. Our healthcare system will, but not every healthcare system will. And I will always say this, I'm not here to bash the traditional medical system. I am part of the traditional medical system. I refer people to the traditional medical system all the time. I love my fellow doctors. It's the system that is incredibly broken in how it's taking care of patients. So these doctors are smart and they know how to do things. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources, and they're not given what they need, even in their medical education, to help our patients.
And one thing that's interesting about this patient in particular, you have other patients that are going through the same exact thing.
Yes.
This is not just a one-off. No. You're seeing this all the time.
Right. And so basically her story was, she came to see me and she had all these symptoms, and we ran a bunch of blood tests, and I have other doctors that probably scoff at the number of blood tests we run. I don't really care. It is a lot. But what we found out that she had prediabetes, she had something called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition where your body is attacking your own thyroid gland. Her thyroid gland was still functioning, which is why they hadn't diagnosed it yet, but she has Hashimoto's. So she's in the beginning stages of developing hypothyroidism. And then on top of that, that was leading to extensive inflammation. So her whole body hurt, her joints and her muscles. And then if you can imagine, like I said, all of that compounded to create a depression. So there was depression involved, and many more other things and many other diagnoses. But, you have to get to the big burning fires before you deal with the smaller intricacies. And so after the first appointment, and I'm not saying I'm a rocket scientist by finding this out, but we diagnosed prediabetes, Hashimoto's, obesity. I can't even remember all the other diagnoses. I think she was already on prescription medications for high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And, so after that first appointment, she comes back in, I share with her diagnoses. And at first it's really traumatic to learn, oh my gosh, I'm really sick. Like I have these diseases. So it can be really traumatic.
How many visits do you think this patient went to her provider? Like how many times?
It was
over how many
7 years of appointments. And even before that.
7 years.
Yeah. And
that's insane.
And that was the point. That was the point that I cried in the appointment. And I don't cry. I don't cry very often. I'm kind of a stone sometimes.
Pretty steely,
right?
Yeah.
In most circumstances.
That's good.
You can see me not steely, but most of the times I'm pretty steely. But she was talking to me after a year of seeing me. At this point, she had lost 50 pounds. She had reduced her inflammation.
In 1 year, 50 pounds was gone.
50 pounds. And she had completely, so this is what was cool about it. I didn't do this to her. She took the information I gave her and said, wow, I'm really sick. I'm going to deep dive into how I can change my lifestyle. She changed her diet. She started exercising. She started focusing on sleep. And so she did this all on her own with the information I provided. And yes, I prescribed some medications to assist in the process to supplement her journey.
Is that atypical for a patient to really take the power into their own hands and go?
No.
Or this is...
No, and that's the beauty of our practice, because when people have to pay to come see me, they're ready to go.
Got it.
So that we've already come over that barrier where they want to get better, and so they're willing to do the work to get better. When I've worked in the traditional healthcare system, like in the urgent care or the ER, I'm dealing with similar patients who are just as sick, but their mindset isn't, I want to get better. Their mindset is, make me feel better immediately, but I'm not really interested in maybe changing my lifestyle.
Give me a pill, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And there's a whole like readiness for change that we work with. So I get patients who are further along on the readiness for change scale.
Right.
They're already thinking about it. And so they're much more likely to have momentum to actually make the changes. But so she came back, and in a recent appointment, she said, Dr. Wagner, she said, I called the hospital where I was seeing my same doctor over the last 7 years. And I asked to talk to an administrator. And I said, why is it that for the past 7 years, this doctor I've been seeing never told me that I was pre-diabetic, that I had Hashimoto's, that I had all these diagnoses? Why was it that they only gave me another pill, but didn't tell me what I had and why I had it and what I could do about it? That's the most important thing. Like, you can do something about it. There's a root cause.
Right.
So she said, she had this conversation with the administrator, and she said, the doctor always just told me, you're just getting older, which is what I hear all the time.
Really?
You're just getting older. I mean, this is probably someone in her 50s. Like, you don't need to feel old in your 50s. You don't even need to feel old in your 70s and 80s.
Right.
You just don't, unless there's a certain medical condition that you can't control. But a lot of them, 80% of chronic diseases are reversible. I might be skewing the data a little bit.
Sure.
It's a lot. But there are obviously some people who have a chronic disease that there's nothing you can do with your lifestyle that's going to erase it, obviously. But so she said she had this conversation with the administrator, and the administrator just said, it was like an impasse. She said, I'm not looking to sue you. I don't want my money back, even though she spent a lot of money over the years on all of her visits and all of her drugs. She said, I just want an apology. And she did not get it. The administrator said, I'm sorry, it looks like we've reached an impasse. The conversation was ended. She never heard anything again. And that's the point at which she said, Dr. Wagner, I'm not angry. I've come to peace with this. I'm just really sad because I look at this community and I'm just one person. And I look at all of these people in my community, my friends and family and in the community, who are going through what I'm going through and either don't have the resources or don't know about you or other clinics like you, and are going to suffer and have a completely different trajectory for their health and lifestyle.
How many similar stories do you hear?
It's not the majority of our patients, but it's a lot of our patients. Yeah. A lot.
That's so interesting. You think you go to your primary care doctor or provider and you think they're going to take care of me.
Right.
I'm going to be good.
Right.
Because I'm not feeling good right now.
Right.
It's just not the case. Why wouldn't they do like as many blood tests? Why wouldn't they go down that path to really get to the root of the problem?
I think it's a problem in the way we were trained.
So, but even after like she's doing it for 7 years, like after 4 or 5 years.
So there's multiple,
same thing,
right? But there's multiple things. There's you have to think about physician burnout. So you have a physician who's seeing this patient. He probably has 10 minutes slotted to see her, but by the time she has her appointment, he's running behind. He's seeing 50 patients that day. And
so it really isn't the physician's.
No, but so there's that case. So it's time. So he doesn't you don't have the time when you're in that situation to say, I have an hour with my patients.
Right.
I have the time. And when you're trained in medicine, it's a pathology based training, which means pathology is disease states. So we focus on diseases and how to treat them. That's really all we talk about. There's a little bit of preventative medicine. There's, when I was trained, we had about 4 hours of nutrition training in all of our medical training, which for me was 7 years.
Yeah.
But it's training. So we're trained to really put out the fires once patients are super, super sick. We're not trained to look at how do you prevent those illnesses, or even when you have those illnesses, are there things you can do with your lifestyle that can reverse them? It's not a reversal based system. And I also, this may not be true, but I also look at the fact that hospitals have a bottom line and they make money off of people being sick. So there's not a lot of...
That's a reality though, right?
It's a reality.
Nobody should be surprised by that.
Right. Like there's, why would there be an incentive to heal all of our patients? So they need fewer procedures, fewer surgeries, shorter hospital stays, which that basically just means less money for a hospital system. And I don't think there's not one person, administrator or doctor, who thinks that way, but it's what keeps the machine running. So I don't know the answer for fixing the Western system. this is more for patients that, you could still utilize the Western system. I had a surgery this summer. I still utilize the Western system. I get my mammogram every year. I go to my gynecologist. But if you are having symptoms or you are having issues, you might want to think outside of the box a little bit.
Wow. So now that this patient is feeling better, drop those 50 pounds, inflammation gone.
Right.
What's next for her? What do you do then? Because maybe you haven't cured her.
No,
but
right. It's maintenance.
So now it's just maintenance.
Right.
And
right.
what does that look like for that patient then going forward for you?
I mean,
your relationship.
I would say it's like it is for all of us. I feel
once a year type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I recommend my patients come to see me once a year. I do have a lot of patients who come to see me who are already pretty uber healthy and they're very health oriented, but they just want to run all their levels, make sure the supplements they're taking are correct. And they'll come see me once a year as well. So I would say once a year is ideal. When we first see a patient, it's a first visit, and then we follow up with them right after to go over all of their labs. And then often it'll be another appointment 3 to 6 months later. So I think in the first year, we probably see people on average 3 to 4 times.
Got it.
It probably should be more than that, but I think it's cost prohibitive and we don't have the manpower to see people that often.
But in those 3 to 4 times, you can gather enough data.
Yes.
Got it.
It's very,
I think that's
very
important.
fast and focused, but
that's important for people to know, though, right?
Right.
This walking into a situation like this, they don't really know what they're getting themselves into.
Not at all. Yeah. So I mean, it's really powerful, and I mean, I've shared my own personal story. My personal story was the same story. I was a resident, moved to California, had a 6-week-old baby, got seriously depressed, almost dropped out of residency. And my attending was like, no, let's have you go see the head of psychiatry. I got drugged with Prozac or Zoloft, one of the two, at SSRI, and some Ambien so I could sleep. And I powered through residency, drugged.
Band-Aids, right? Those are all Band-Aids.
Which I'm so thankful.
Right.
I'm so thankful. So I do love Western medicine in a lot of different ways. And I do prescribe drugs like that sometimes when necessary. But then after, when my life had settled down, I wasn't living in California and I didn't have a newborn and I had more time and flexibility, I still would go to my doctor and be like, do I really need to be on this antidepressant? And they were always like, oh yes, you have a chemical problem in your brain. You have a disease. You will always need to be on depression medication. I mean, and that's just bullshit. Right. And then I would try to go off of them, but I didn't have the tools to know, what I needed to change in my life to make it possible to
You
go
didn't
off.
have a Dr. Wagner to turn to.
I didn't have a Dr. Wagner. So I was going to energy healers and I was going to the chiropractor and I was going to counselors and I just kept trying. And I went through a long searching phase. My kids joke about my new age phase a little bit, but I went through a very big searching phase, but thank God I did, because that's what led me to the Integrative Medicine Fellowship. And then it was just, again, a snowball effect that it was like doors opening over and over again, where I actually was able to change a lot of things in my life, get off the medications, and it's never been a problem again. Never.
So for people who might be
10 plus years now.
Yeah. But people who might be newer to either podcast or integrative medicine itself, how much of it is still traditional type medicine and how much is the integrative side?
I can't really give a percentage, but it's a lot of traditional medicine.
Yeah.
I look at it as like parallel treatment plans. I'll dip into both sides. So depending on the patient's needs, they might need 90% Western medicine and 10% of the holistic alternative stuff.
But that 10% is super important because they're not getting that.
Right. Or they might need 90% alternative outside of the box thinking and still 10% traditional. So that's why I love it, because I always say I'm willing to go both ways. So patients are able to utilize things from both worlds.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, I don't think integrative medicine should be a specialty. It should be the way we run medicine. Right? Yeah. Luckily, that won't happen while I'm still alive, I don't think. So I will have a job.
Well, yeah.
but
you're leading the charge.
Right. But the healthcare system should be just integrative. So every doctor should know how to talk about nutrition. Every doctor should be willing to order extensive lab tests to look at things that are a little outside of the box. Every doctor should refer to acupuncturists, chiropractors, energy healers, all of these different types of healers that are out there, and have a knowledge about them. But that's what takes time, because
they just don't have the time.
You don't have the time. Right. And it's not built into the medical system. So when you want to learn about these things, you have to either go join a fellowship or you have to sign up for IFM, which is the Institute for Functional Medicine, which costs, tens of thousands of dollars, self-funded by doctors who already have loads of debt.
You, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, no, mine was funded by my clinic. Well, so I was very, very lucky.
Yes.
I was given a gift.
No, it is pretty incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I think there's a lot of the hospital systems have an integrative medicine department, or they're trying, but it's just the way that insurance works and the way that things are set up. It's like they clash, and then it ultimately just goes away. That's what I see over and over and over again. Most doctors like me, and patients complain about this all the time. They'll say, "Oh, I was seeing this doctor at this healthcare system, and then she left, and then I was seeing this guy and he left," and it's because it doesn't work very well. It's just hard to do it. It's hard to navigate what we do within the traditional system. So it's going to take a long, long time, but I do see it happening. It has to happen. I mean, our world is sick.
Well, you being in, your new space here too, you can see the growth is there. You wouldn't have this space if people weren't on this track.
Right. Yeah, we've been really lucky. I started with me and a front desk person, and then now we have myself, 3 nurse practitioners, clinic director. It's just beautiful.
It's incredible.
And it's the energy. The other thing that's really cool about the specialty is the vibe of the people who are practicing, because everyone is healthcare focused and they just have a different mindset. There's less burnout. Everyone themselves is trying to be healthy. We put a sauna and a cold plunge in our facility, and most people here use it. We have a salt room. Most people here use it. We have IV therapy. People are using it all the time. So it's almost like we have this wellness package built into working here.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool because we're actually practicing what we preach.
No, sauna and cold plunge, that's all I read about right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere.
It's my favorite thing.
Insane.
It's my favorite thing right now.
Everybody's writing about it.
Yes.
Everybody should be doing it.
We should talk about that. But
we should. Yeah, for sure.
We have to talk about that. We have to talk about sobriety, hormones, all the stuff.
Plenty.
But I think this was a good reintroduction of James Lohmiller. People, when we did our shows before, I would always get these questions. So who is this James guy? So, if people have questions about him, plop them in the comments.
Yeah.
Send an email to the clinic. I don't remember what the email is, but you can find it on our website.
Yeah.
There's a way to contact us at the website. But he's an interesting dude, and I think he's going to add a lot to the show and help me pull stuff out and then add his own insight, which is really great.
Yeah, I've been a pseudo patient of yours in the past too, and I see the passion that goes into what you're doing here. It is incredible,
and you've also seen that I'm not perfect. I think that's the other.
No, exactly. You're human,
right?
And it's great, and that is so refreshing for people to understand as well.
Like a lot of people who are on social media promoting integrative medicine or functional medicine, all these health and wellness practices, they portray this perfect life. It's like perfect aesthetics and everything's laid out perfectly and the house is clean, and it's just like, it's not reality, right? So you've seen that about me for sure.
Yeah, no, it is. It is so nice to be around somebody that I think gets it. Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm excited to get going on this, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Ciao.